Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. You're enjoying your day, sweet. If not, then what the hell ever. So, I had to make a decision on this episode just because by the time I'm recording this, work is getting a little crazy, so things have been a little hectic with trying to get everything organized, but regardless, finally wanted to talk about another Wrestlemania here, because I've discussed a few so far on the podcast, and I wanted to finally cover Wrestlemania 30. I was going to cover 35, but I didn't want to have another negative subject episode just yet, even if it's for laughs or anything, but we're going to talk about WrestleMania 30 today. I'm not going to go reminding of the pre-show and everything, because I just want to go with the main card, and I will talk about some stuff that happened after WrestleMania in relation to some of these things that happened on the show. So, we remember the opening segment, Hogan coming out saying, "Oh, it's WrestleMania 30, brother. I was here at the first WrestleMania, brother, and I'm here in the Silverdome." And then he stops because, everybody's laughing at him. He's like, "Oh, wait, I'm in the Silverdome, or the Superdome, brother." So it's like Hogan accidentally mixes up where he was at WrestleMania 3. It's like, yeah, this is 30. We're 27 years later. Then, during his promo, out comes Stone Cold, and he even gets to have a little laugh, saying, "It's great to be back here in the Silverdome." What? So that's a fun little moment. A little back and forth banter, then out comes The Rock. So three of the biggest icons in wrestling history, and The Rock. Finally, The Rock has come back to the Superdome. So, a fun segment, some laughs, even at Hogan's little expense there. Hopefully his feelings didn't get too hurt to the point where he tried to play politics. But beer bash at the end, fun moment to start the show. Get the energy going for everything. And plus, thankfully, well, I don't know if thankfully, but we hadn't heard what Hogan was saying behind the scenes just yet by this point. We have to wait till the next year, huh? So now we're going to get into the first match. Daniel Bryan, Triple H. The winner gets added to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship main event with Batista and Randy Orton. So the whole thing had been going on since the summer 2013. Daniel Bryan had become WWE Champion by beating John Cena cleanly at SummerSlam. Then afterwards, Triple H lays out Daniel Bryan with the pedigree to help Randy Orton cash in his Money in the Bank and become the new WWE Champion, and this led to the creation of The Authority, which felt like it went on for an eon, and it would still go on for another 2 years after this. Oh, God. So Daniel Bryan got tired of he was being held down, and the Authority did not want to see him succeed, not listening to the fans, being more concerned of what's best for business, instead of thinking, hey, maybe listening to the fans might be the best, but you fast forward to 2026, maybe not so much. But finally we're getting this match, Daniel Bryan, Triple H, because Daniel Bryan had to hijack Raw and saying, "I want a match with you in this very ring. Otherwise, we are not going to leave this ring." So we get the match. And as mentioned before, the stipulations added. Winner gets added to the main event. So it's going to be a triple threat match coming up later on. So this, honestly, was a fantastic way to start the show. Because, I know Triple H has had some really good chemistry with guys that are a bit more fast-paced, smaller in size. We saw that with Chris Benoit. We saw that with the Kurt Angle. I know he's not, the small, not too much smaller in size compared to Triple H, but still, you compare their physiques and their in-ring styles a little different. You see with Shawn Michaels, CM Punk, stuff like that. So smaller guys do work well with Triple H. And this was the best WrestleMania opening match they really truly had since probably WrestleMania 10 between Bret and Owen. This was they actually did a fantastic job here, like I mentioned. They went with the whole story of trying to hold Daniel Bryan down by incapacitating him, going after his shoulder, which was targeted in the build and everything, because let's not forget, we also had that segment where Triple H had Daniel Bryan arrested in handcuffs and be like, "You guys aren't even real cops, which I think was kind of a recycling for what they did for the WrestleMania 17 build for Triple H Undertaker, just going by memory based on reliving the war. Shout out to Wrestling Files for that, by the way. But despite the disadvantage, the bodily injury and everything, Daniel Bryan would get the clean victory over Triple H with a running knee. So he's added to the main event, but Triple H still tries to handicap him even more by still attacking him post-match to get Daniel Bryan taken out of there to try to make sure, hey, you're not going to be in the main event and be champion, and all that other shite. Now, you get the six-man tag match, which would end up being the shortest match of the night. The Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws. So the Shield, they were kind of the henchmen of the Authority. Going on after 2013 was going into 2014. Then there was some teased ascension still going on, possibly I think around this time, but eventually the Shield turned babyface and went against the Authority. So now they're going up against Kane and the New Age Outlaws with the New Age Outlaws kind of being associates of sorts, because, like, hey, Triple H is their buddy, and Kane, he's still corporate Kane wearing the slacks and everything, and he's not quite married yet. But six-man tag, this was just done to get the Shield over in quick fashion. Triple powerbomb to all three members of the opposing team at the same time. I think I rated that Billy Gunn suffered somewhat of an internal injury from this, the powerbomb that he took, but regardless, the Shield in their first pay-per-view matches as solidified babyfaces now, because they weren't quite just yet Elimination Chamber, but now they were, they get a dominant tag team victory over Kane and the New Age Outlaws. Nice moment here. Kind of makes you forget that Kane even had another WrestleMania match, because I know he's busy with other stuff. But still a fine thing to do for the Shield. Now the next one, a match that really became a bit of a downer. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, 31 men! So let me read off the list. This is being based on the order listed on Wikipedia. And it also goes by eliminations. You had Yoshitatsu, Brad Maddox, I forgot he was even still around by then, Brodus Clay, The Great Khali, Zack Ryder, Darren Young, Drew McIntyre, not quite the Scottish Psychopath yet, Jinder Mahal, not with the Bollywood Boys yet either, Heath Slater, Mark Henry, Titus O'Neil, The Miz, Santino Marella, Xavier Woods, Damian Sandow, Justin Gabriel, David Otunga, Big E, no longer Langston, Fandango, R-Truth, Sin Cara, Tyson Kidd, Goldust, Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, and The Big Show. And we also got to remember, this was one of the last appearances that we even saw with 3MB, because 2 out of the 3 men would get released later on. Heath would still keep a job, and we would see what would happen later on with the Social Outcast and all that other stuff. Any other guys, like Yoshitatsu, I forgot he was still around by then, too. And like I said, with Maddox, he hadn't quite gotten himself fired yet. Darren Young, I don't think he was trying to make himself great yet. Let's see, anybody else? Damien Sandow, he was kind of in purgatory at this point up until the whole stuff with The Miz started going on with the tag teams. Everybody else, they were just there, really. But, like, you get down to Cesaro and Big Show. It seemed like Big Show was going to win this, but then Cesaro slipped out of, like, almost looking like what they were recreating with the Royal Rumble 2000 finish with the just being over the shoulder. But Cesaro slipped out, uppercutted Big Show, scooped him up, and dumped him over the top rope to the floor, and Cesaro wins. So it's like, one for the real Americans. So it's just like, you would have thought this would have been a pivotal point to actually do something with Cesaro, because that was a great way for him to win. Like, you pick up a man who's nearly 500 pounds and just dump him over the top rope like he's nothing. Like, that was actually an impressive thing, but then we would see what happened the next night, because it's like, oh, I'm no longer a a Zip Coulter guy. I'm a Paul Heyman guy. Like, it could have been, like, he shook hands with Hogan the next night on Raw, and you would have thought, like, it could have turned him babyface or something, but it's like, he aligns with Paul Heyman, who is still technically a heel, so it's like you go one heel manager to the other, instead of turning babyface. He's given the nickname the King of Swing, and really he went nowhere after this, because, like, even the stuff with Paul Heyman, I think that was quietly, or somewhat just randomly separated around, like, the summer, and then Cesaro, yeah, they really lost faith in him all of a sudden, because they weren't giving him a chance. I mean, like, it was a great feel-good moment, but it ultimately led to nothing. Now, the next one, this was a damn good build. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. Because Bray, he had been targeting Cena since around the Royal Rumble. They cost him, Wyatt family cost Cena the match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Randy Orton. They also cost him his match in the Elimination Chamber the next month. Because Bray Wyatt, I want to expose John Cena for the fraud that he is, and I'm scary. So it's like Bray wanting to bring out that darker side of Cena, which we wouldn't see until just last year. It's like, oh, it's almost like he embraced the hate of sorts. It's like, does Bray get that kind of like credit, or does Kane do stuff from a few years before then? I don't know. But like, Bray wants to show the darker side of Cena. I'm going to expose John Cena for the fraud that he is, which he couldn't do, unfortunately, because like, Bray, he had been on the main roster for, like, 9 months, I think? Because, like, I remember he was around somewhere around summer, maybe, like, early fall-ish. Like, I know he went against, like, Kane at SummerSlam. He had the match with Kofi at Battleground. I think, yeah, it had to have been Kane before this, because I don't think there was anything with Payback. But, like, he was getting, like, a lot of momentum. And, yeah, some of his promos may not have been easy to interpret, but you would have thought it would have been the right call for him to win, based on like how over he was getting, the momentum with the Wyatt family and everything, but instead, Cena beat him clean as a whistle. Like, they were trying to tempt him, be like, hey, Cena, you've got a chair, swing for the fences. Cena's like, nah, do. And he pinned Bray in the middle of the ring. And then he would, like, lose the steel cage match the next month at Extreme Rules, but then beat him in the last man standing match at Payback, so it didn't really help Bray. And Bray wouldn't ultimately get his revenge for another couple of years. He's, oh, Firefly Funhouse. I mean, rest in peace, Bray. We miss you. But it's just like you were done dirty with this loss. Like I said, like, it was a really good match, but Bray needed this win more than Cena. I know Cena was kind of drifting in and out of like the top guy spot with being champion and everything, especially after the Daniel Bryan stuff and Randy Orton and everything, but it's like this was the first time Cena was not in a huge match, like in terms of like the position on the card, since WrestleMania 20. And yet, he like had to win. Like, it didn't make any sense, and it still really doesn't. Like I said, yeah, Bray got revenge 2 years later, but it didn't help him at that point in time, and we would see what would happen after this feud ended. Now the next one, an infamous one. The Undertaker versus Brock for the streak. The Undertaker was 21-0 going into this, and Brock, he had demolished the Big Show at Royal Rumble, and he eventually said, hey, Brock wants to have an open challenge against just somebody to come down and sign the contract to face the Beast of WrestleMania. Out comes The Undertaker. Brock signs the contract, puts his hand down, and The Undertaker stabs him in the hand with the pin and chokeslams him through the table. Though it's just like a bit of a rushed feeling here for like this match. Like, this is not the first time they had gone one-on-one. This is like, I think the fourth time they had gone in a singles match on pay-per-view, because let's see, you had Unforgiven and No Mercy 2002, and then No Mercy 2003, because that was the biker chain on a pole match for the 2003 event of No Mercy. So, first time they're having a match together in over 10 years. And unfortunately, this match did not meet expectations, because I know people tried to figure out like where the concussion was. I think it had to have been when Undertaker was on the floor, got tripped up, and he smacked the floor. That might have been it, because then Undertaker had no memory of this until he ended up in the hospital for medical attention and everything because of how bad the concussion was. The match was maybe good at best. Like, anywhere between alright to good at the most. Like I said, like somewhere within the range. Like, we've seen better WrestleMania matches for The Undertaker, and who knows how much better it would have been if he didn't get concussed. But Brock, after 3 F5s, and even kicking out of the tombstone, he beat The Undertaker clean as whistle middle of the ring. And it just, like, everybody's just beside themselves. They're like, what? Like, this, like, I know wrestling, like, kayfabe was not alive and well anymore. Like, there were barely any aspects that were still being maintained. But this was still something people believed in. And the reaction, just everybody stunned silence. You had the guy with the glasses and everything just be like, like, huh? Like, I know there was even a joke, I think, like Kayfabe News or something, saying like, oh, he did an interview saying, no, he was in mid-sneeze. And it's like, oh, what a funny it was, but Brock ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak. And it does drive me nuts when people still say any matches afterwards, oh, his streak is now this. No, the streak is over at this point. You can say it was his WrestleMania record after this, but the streak is no longer a streak because it's been broken. So you could say, like, the stuff with Bray and Shane and Roman and any others, it's just a WrestleMania record instead of, like, talking about his continuation of a streak, because that's no more here. So, Brock wins 21-1, ends the streak, and no, it was not an accident. Vince called this for whatever reason. Like, it's like, I get it, like, he thought Undertaker was going to retire at some point, and somebody had to do it at some point, and so somebody could benefit. And yeah, Brock would benefit because he became unstoppable and just destroyed Cena later on in the year, but then we saw the never-ending run of Suplex City, which outran it, completely overstayed its welcome, to be honest. But it's just like, could have been better giving it to somebody else? Yeah, like maybe Bray the next year, because like the new face of fear. But it's just like, it's like, I think if it, or maybe even if it was like they saved it for Roman a few years later, being like, hey, the guy they're trying to get over as top guy gets this gigantic like career accolade. But instead, they just gave it to Brock and then Suplex City nonstop for the next 10 plus years. Like, please let that go. Like, Brock, he can do more than just the same moves. Then afterwards, The Undertaker slowly sits up, makes his way to the back, and he collapses before getting to gorilla position. And then Vince goes with him to the hospital and everything. Brock and Paul go with him. So it's a rare time where Vince actually leaves the show, but he got to be there by Undertaker's side, his most loyal employee. Somebody's been there since 1990 and everything. So it's just like, that's at least admirable of Vince. Being like, hey, you're loyal to a guy, he's been loyal to you, so you're making sure he's taken care of. But like, that's a rare time where you can say something positive about Vince in 2026 at this point. Especially if you're not trying to be delusional and saying that he needs to come back for whatever reason. Now, the next one. The Vicky Guerrero Invitational. 14 Divas in the second shortest match of the night. All going against each other. One fall to a finish for the Divas title. Defending champion AJ Lee against Oksana, Alicia Fox, Brie Bella, Cameron, Emma, Eva Marie, Layla, Naomi, Natalia, Nikki Bella, Rosa Mendez, Summer Rae, and Tamina Snuka. And yes, I'm reading them all in order from Wikipedia because that's all in alphabetical order. This match, not even 7 minutes. It feels like a pain when you got that many women, like, to try to... Like, I can almost kind of compare it to, like, WrestleMania 2000/16, whatever people want to refer to it as, where they're just shoving a bunch of people in there for, like, a big payday. It's just, like, so many people in one match. Like, you saw with the Hardcore Battle Royal, like I mentioned at 16, just a ton of people in this one match just to get them all on the card. But it just becomes sloppy and everything to where it's hard to really tell a story or maintain focus because, like, everything's just going on all over the place. You can't really easily keep track of everything. And I believe they botched the finish because AJ Lee did defeat Naomi, and that was the plan. But it was supposed... Like, Naomi actually physically tapped out, but it was supposed to be a case where AJ kind of forced Naomi's hand to make it look like she tapped out to kind of build a story after this. But unfortunately, because of that botched finish, they couldn't do that, and then... The next night, they changed course because, here comes Paige, and she's coming to do what nobody else has been able to do, and dethrone AJ before she departs for her honeymoon and everything. But it was alright, but, like, we've seen better. We've really seen better. Now the main event. Batista, Randy Orton, and the newcomer, Daniel Bryan, yes, for a triple threat for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And we remember all this. Randy Orton... He became the undisputed overall WWE World Heavyweight Champion by unifying both world titles at TLC. Batista came back at the Royal Rumble, and he won, last eliminating Roman Reigns. And now he gets the shot at WrestleMania, but the fan backlash said otherwise, because Daniel Bryan was not in the Royal Rumble. They were not happy about Batista taking the spot of a guy that was white hot, so fans were rebelling against this. And this led to Batista turning heel, because the babyface run was not working. And now Daniel Bryan, as we mentioned, he wanted to finally get this shot because it was added in the stipulation. And I know there were supposed to be a couple other things. Like, I know there was supposed to be CM Punk versus Triple H instead. And I think it was supposed to have instead also been Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus one-on-one. Which, thankfully, we did not see that here because it was not going to work. But now we got all this going on. Big main event. And Daniel Bryan, we remember, he's got a bit of a disadvantage because he's got the bad shoulder because of Triple H. But this match... I think, thankfully, this match did the rare thing you can actually do, and that's wake the crowd back up, because they got deflated during the Divas title match because of the ending of the streak, and this match, thankfully, also fantastic, got the crowd back, and that's not easy to do in wrestling. Once you lose a crowd, it is very, very difficult to get them reinvested on anything later on, and they did it. And I think some people were able to actually take this match and kind of compare it a little bit to the triple threat we saw at WrestleMania 20 years back. Because, like, you saw the whole thing with them, with the two big guys just driving the small guy through the announce table. Because WrestleMania 20, you saw that to Benoit doing through there. And Orton and Batista, kind of their own iteration of the Batista Mom RKO, even though technically it was a neck breaker because of Daniel's position. And Randy screws up because he lands on the monitor and cuts open his back because of that. It's like, that's why you have to tear the table apart first. It's like, yeah, maybe you're trying to get things done quickly, or maybe adrenaline's going, but you gotta do what's safe and everything. Because these were the big black monitors that you still had there. Not these little screens that we see current with the current tables and everything. But they did that to take out Daniel Bryan, which did not work because he got off the gurney, wanted to keep going. Then you get to the conclusion. Randy Orton gets driven with the Batista bomb, and then rolls out of the ring, and Daniel gets back into the ring. Boom! Running into Batista, yes lock, and after some struggling, Batista finally taps out, and the crowd loses their minds as Michael Cole screams, "Miracle Kid! The Miracle on Bourbon Street!" Like, you keep screaming that, I'm gonna want some bourbon, and I barely ever drink anymore, but finally an actual good moment, because, like, WWE can try to say, oh, we planned for this, we were gonna do this all along. No, you did this because of the fan backlash. Please don't lie. But Daniel Bryan got the feel-good moment and the proper conclusion for WrestleMania as he walks out as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And yeah, he no-sold the shoulder issue the next night because the whole yes thing with the belts and everything. And we remember the other footage that aired that after he won, he went out and talked and hugged Connor the Crusher, being like, hey, keep fighting, kid, keep fighting. And unfortunately, Connor the Crusher would not live much longer after this, but at least he was able to live long enough to be able to see his idol get that feel-good big moment at the end of the show and everything, celebrating with confetti and everything, like a proper conclusion to WrestleMania. Like, we had seen like a big celebration victory for like the 10th and 20th, even though the 20th can't be looked at finally because of certain circumstances, but a proper way to conclude the show. So yeah, I think there were still some reservations that people had with some of these things. Like, you knew Daniel Bryan Triple H was going to excel. The Shield 6-man tag, it was like just going to do something to get people over. You did not know what to expect from the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But then we saw what happened afterwards. Be like, yeah, it was the start of the curse, which I've alluded to in a past episode. Cena Bray had a really good build, but the who won decision I have to still question. Brock Undertaker, he had the injury there and the ending of the streak, which I know still gets talked about, being like, hey, was this the right call? I would say no. Because, like, yeah, Brock became unstoppable and everything, and he took Cena off his top guy pedestal after this, because they were trying to then use that to catapult Roman in afterwards, but it's just like, I still have my reservations on that. The Divas title match, nothing you're really going to remember, but then the main event really saves, like, the ending, especially after the crowd got deflated and everything. And like I said, I know there were some creative plans that got thrown for a loop just because of CM Punk walking out, but I mean, this was a really great WrestleMania. Really great. I mean, better than the one that we would get 4 years later in the same venue. But thank goodness that this show ended up like having the changes that it needed and exceeded expectations in a way. So let me know in the comment section below, what did you all think about WrestleMania 30? Whether you're watching it for the first time or looking back on it, what did you all think about the show? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, please remember to leave a like, subscribe to the bell, turn on if you're watching this on YouTube, comment what you thought below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.